All right, so some big breaking news. The Attorney General Pam Bondi has just been either fired or resigned, stepped down from her position, and effective soon, there's going to be somebody else that is going to replace them. But for now, there's an acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche. And so we're going to go through some tweets or truths that Trump and others have posted. We're going to talk about some analysis, and especially from an Anon's perspective, especially if you are in the truth movement, trying to figure out some of this stuff. We'll talk about some of the white hat type stuff that's happening. So let's talk about several hypotheses, go through some of what's happening at face value, and then just go into it. So Trump first mentioned this in a speech a day before, but he officially truthed this out. He said, Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend. So pay attention to that. Loyal friend. He says things positively here. Who faithfully served as my attorney general over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murderers plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much needed and important new job in the private sector to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and a very talented, respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will step in to serve as acting Attorney General. So listen to what he says here. A lot of times when he fires people or there's turnover, he'll either speak very negatively or later on come to berate them or say certain things, or he will say something neutral, or he will say something very positive. In this case, he's saying something positive. Now, Pam Bondi also tweeted this, breaking her silence, saying, over the next month, I will be working tirelessly to transition the Office of Attorney General to the amazing Todd Blanche before moving to an important private sector role I am thrilled about, and where I will continue fighting for President Trump and this administration, leading President Trump's historic and highly successful efforts to make America safer and more secure has been the honor of a lifetime and easily the most consequential first year of the Department of Justice in American history. Since February 2025, we have secured the lowest murder rate in 125 years, secured first ever terrorism convictions against the members of Antifa, shattered domestic and transnational gangs across the country, taken custody of more than 90 key cartel figures, and won 24 favorable rulings at the Supreme Court. I remain eternally grateful for the trust that President Trump placed in me to make America safe again. Now, similar to what I said about DHS Kristi Noem being replaced by Mullen, there is something happening here that we may not understand fully, which is that according to this whole white hat operation, there are compartmentalized roles happening for which, because there's such intensity and research and a lot of things required for that particular role, it's not something where you have to sustain this for the 4-year period. And so in some sense, there might be this role that Pam Bondi had played prior to coming on board and now moving into the private sector and through this last year and a half, that whether it's public or has been private with sealed indictments or whatever it is, that she played her part perfectly. And now the next person coming in who has been prepared through the research over the years or the past year or so, whether it is Todd or somebody else coming on board, they're going to take front and center stage to do their work for the next year or two and then move and shift over. And so Trump does that a lot with different people. Remember, I mentioned that after the 2020 steal back in November and before Trump left office, he famously replaced tons of people in very important positions of power, and a lot of people talking about the continuity of government and devolution. Part of that, it sounded crazy. You only have a month left in your presidency. You're a lame duck president. And why is it that you are turning over big roles in the government? Because a lot of people, as we were saying, there was something else going on, a nefarious stealing and overthrowing democracy that had happened during that time. So the same thing happening in this case where there's roles. There's a lot of people that have to do intense work, and then they are shifted over to somebody else who has the capability, the capacity to then come in and do these different things. So I'm not saying that Pam Bondi is amazing and did an excellent job. It's just one theory. And so I want to talk about a couple of other theories. First is that Trump, as you've maybe known, especially if you've been through the season where he was on The Apprentice and firing and doing all this stuff with people, and even his tenure or his history of doing this. He wants people to perform at a high level, especially in the government, in the White House. And as a cabinet member, you have to be able to do things at a very high level. And so me coming from a professional background, I understood where people were slightly lazy. They weren't doing, work the way that you envision it to happen. And I'm not saying this is what Pam has done or had done, but if it is, as is being reported at face value, because Pam Bondi, according to many other people and different outlets, where a lot of people are talking about the lack of effort in the Epstein files, the lack of effort in prosecuting people, and not a lot of public facing, basically, results that were happening. So a lot of people are speculating, saying all kinds of stuff. So you can, read your own article and see certain things and what people's perspectives are. And others are saying very specific things. The Daily Mail here reporting that she was fired because she tipped off Eric Swalwell for their efforts, the FBI's efforts into releasing investigative documents relating to his relationship with an alleged Chinese spy. And so this is regarding Christine Fang. So this cache of documents that the FBI was preparing on their alleged relationship, that she, having close ties apparently, or having a friendly relationship, had warned him ahead of time. And so this sort of like ambiguous stance that she has in dampening the effectiveness of this prosecution would basically tamper all of the efforts that has been ongoing with the FBI and others. So this is one area. And so there's a big spectrum based on, is it really just natural turnover? Is it just basically somebody like in your company, if you work somewhere, they got something personal that's happening, they're moving on to different opportunities, and they're just naturally going to churn. Maybe that's it. Or they were fired, just like any other role, or all the way down to being very, I don't know, quote unquote, conspiracy-esque into saying that there was this compartmentalization. There was this pre-planned setup from the very get-go, whether it was all the way from the first term or not, or from the beginning of his presidency in the second term or not, or quote-unquote second term, if you know what I'm talking about, and that there was this need-to-know basis where she played a role, stepped up to it, did well, and then now, just like with Kristi Noem and others, stepping away, doing other things in that same domain that they're an expert in. And then others are going to step up to do other prosecutions, in speaking on the role of Attorney General, where they have, again, other experience. They're going to be more effective in that area. And then they're going to have their, quote, time for glory. So again, I'm just speculating. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are. I just want to report this initial news as it's coming out. A lot more is developing. It's only been a few hours since this happened, but love to know your guys' thoughts, your comments below. If you guys want to also help me out, support me in my journey, my mission here. You guys know I'm listener supported, just doing all these different things in the background. I would love it if you guys want to continue to support me. Let me know in the comments down below. Love you guys. More to come. Talk to you guys very soon.